There are moments in life when everything seems to fall apart. The plans you made, the dreams you held, the person you thought you were, all of it can suddenly come crashing down. Maybe you lose your job, maybe someone you trusted walks away, or maybe one morning you just wake up and realize you no longer recognize the person in the mirror. It feels like the world has taken away your foundation. But here's the truth that many forget: sometimes, losing everything is the first step toward rebuilding something better. Imagine standing in front of an old house. The walls are cracked, the windows broken, the roof leaking. You can try to fix it, to patch the holes and repaint the walls. But deep down you know it will never be the same. To truly rebuild, you must tear it down and start again, not with the same materials, but with something stronger, something new. That's what rebuilding yourself means. It's not about becoming who you were. It's about becoming who you're meant to be. When life knocks you down, your first instinct might be to stay there. You may feel tired, defeated, or even ashamed. But the moment you decide to rise, even if you can barely move, that's when the rebuilding begins. You don't need all the answers. You don't need anyone's permission. You just need one decision: to start again. Every person who has ever achieved greatness began with that moment of silence. That breath after the fall, that whisper that says, "I'm not finished yet." Think about it. The most beautiful buildings rise from the ashes of destruction. The strongest trees grow after storms. The brightest souls often come from the darkest nights. What if your darkest moment is not your end but your beginning? Maybe you've been broken by disappointment. Maybe you've lost confidence in yourself. But the thing about being broken is that it gives you the chance to rebuild with wisdom. You no longer build with fantasy, you build with truth. You no longer build on approval, you build on purpose. And that changes everything. You might wonder, where do I start? Start with honesty. Be honest about what hurts. Be honest about what you lost, and what you've learned. Pretending everything is fine only delays your healing. When you admit the truth, even the painful parts, you make space for something real to grow. Rebuilding doesn't begin with strength. It begins with truth. When you start over, you will lose people. You will lose old versions of yourself. But you will also find new strength, new peace, and new reasons to keep going. Some people will not understand your silence. Some will say you've changed. And they're right, because you have. You've stopped surviving and started building. You've stopped living for others and started living for yourself. Rebuilding yourself is not about forgetting the past. It's about learning from it without letting it define you. Every scar becomes a story, every failure a lesson. Think about a cracked vase. When it's repaired with gold, it becomes even more valuable, not despite its cracks, but because of them. You, too, can become something beautiful, not in spite of what broke you, but because of how you chose to rise. There will be days when you doubt your progress. Days when you feel you're back to where you started. But remember, growth is not a straight line. It's a spiral. You return to old pain only to see it differently, to handle it better. Every time you face what once hurt you, you take back your power. You become the architect of your own future. Rebuilding yourself takes patience. You cannot rush a sunrise. You cannot force a flower to bloom before its time. Give yourself space to breathe, to rest, to rediscover what makes your soul come alive. Maybe it's art, maybe it's music, maybe it's helping others. Follow that spark, no matter how small. That spark is your blueprint. That spark is you. As you start again, you'll begin to realize something powerful. the person you were searching for has always been inside you. Beneath the doubts, beneath the pain, beneath all the noise, there is a version of you that never gave up. That part of you is waiting to rebuild, waiting to rise, waiting to shine again, so stand tall, even if your legs shake. Speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. You're not behind. You're rebuilding. And there's no greater act of courage than choosing to begin again. When you begin to rebuild yourself, the first thing you will notice is silence. It's the kind of silence that feels heavy, like the world has gone quiet just to see what you will do next. That silence is not your enemy, it's your teacher. In it, you'll hear your real voice again, the one that got lost beneath the noise of other people's opinions. You'll start to remember what matters to you, not what others said should matter. At first, it may feel lonely. You might look around and see people moving faster, achieving more, living lives that seem perfect. But don't be fooled by appearances. Everyone is rebuilding something. Some just hide it better. The difference is that you're choosing to do it consciously, to take your pain, your lessons, and your truth, and turn them into a new foundation. That takes courage most people never find. Rebuilding yourself is not about changing everything overnight. It's about rebuilding your relationship with yourself. It starts with how you speak to yourself in the morning, how you treat yourself when you make mistakes, how you forgive yourself for not knowing better before. Every kind word you say to yourself becomes a brick. Every honest action becomes a beam of strength. Over time, the structure rises, not made of perfection, but of patience. You might look back at your past and feel regret. Maybe you wish you could undo something or go back to a moment and choose differently. But you are not meant to live in rewind. You are meant to live in renewal. The past is not a prison, it's a teacher. When you understand what it came to teach you, it loses its power to hurt you. The weight you've been carrying starts to feel lighter, not because the past disappears, but because you've grown strong enough to hold it differently. Many people think rebuilding means erasing what happened. It doesn't. It means using what happened as raw material for your growth. Like clay mold by heat, you become stronger through pressure. Every time you get up after falling, you shape yourself into something new. And soon, what once broke you becomes what builds you. Sometimes, rebuilding yourself means walking away from places, from habits, from people who no longer match your peace. It doesn't mean you hate them. It means you've outgrown the version of yourself that needed them. Growth can be painful because it requires letting go. But what if letting go is not losing, but freeing your hand so you can build something better? Think of a tree. It sheds its leaves every autumn. To the outside world, it might look dead. But beneath the surface, it's preparing for spring. That's how rebuilding works. You might appear still, even broken, but inside you're developing roots that will one day hold you steady through any storm. So if life feels quiet or slow, don't panic. Growth is happening, even when you can't see it. Rebuilding also means learning to trust again, not just others, but yourself. Trust that you can make good choices. Trust that you can heal. Trust that you can create a new story, no matter how the old one ended. When you start trusting yourself, life begins to open again. You stop waiting for permission and start taking action. That's when confidence returns, not because someone gives it to you, but because you build it with every step. There will be moments when you'll want to quit. When everything feels pointless and you can't see progress. But remember, even a mountain is climbed one step at a time. You may not feel the change today, but one day you'll look back and realize you're standing in a place you once only dreamed of reaching. That's what rebuilding does. It slowly transforms the impossible into the inevitable. Every morning you get up and choose to try again. You prove something powerful, that you are stronger than yesterday. You may not notice it, but your strength grows quietly, like dawn breaking after a long night. You become softer and wiser. You begin to speak differently, move differently, think differently. You no longer chase happiness, you create it. You no longer search for peace, you protect it. That's the sign that you've rebuilt not just your life, but your spirit, and one day, you'll meet someone who's standing where you once stood, lost, broken, unsure. You'll recognize the pain in their eyes, and you'll tell them, it gets better. And you'll mean it. Because you'll have lived it. You'll realize your story was never just about you. It was about becoming the person who could light the path for others. That's the final stage of rebuilding, turning your pain into purpose. So if you're still in the middle of your rebuilding, don't rush it. You are becoming something extraordinary. Every tear, every scar, every small act of courage is shaping the masterpiece of your new life. The pieces may look scattered now, but one day, you'll look back and see how beautifully they fit together. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath. Feel your heart beating. That's proof you're still here. Still fighting. Still rebuilding. No matter how many times you've been broken, you have the power to begin again. The old version of you served its purpose. Now it's time for the new one to rise, and when you do, when you finally stand in the light of your own strength, you'll smile, not because the pain disappeared, but because you survived it. You rebuilt yourself from the inside out. And that is something no one can ever take away. If this story touched you, take a moment to breathe and think about your own rebuilding journey. I share stories like this every day to help you learn English through emotion, storytelling, and self-growth. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.